So our next lesson will be on securing cloud infrastructure resources. Now in this module, we will complete the following exercise, which is securing cloud infrastructure. And after completing this module, we should be able to configure group policy, locate and use event viewer, and encrypt Azure OS and data disks. So for our first exercise, which is on securing cloud infrastructure resources, regardless of an organization's preferred environment, on premises or on cloud, one aspect remains consistent: the need to secure resources. So, cloud security spans over several tools, protocols, and best practices. Familiarizing yourselves with these will enable your ability to address these needs. So, securing cloud infrastructure resources does not end at the initial configuration. Any brief change brings risk. So, even if the environment is secure today, it may not be tomorrow. So, in this exercise, we will explore various tools used to secure infrastructure resources. So, for our first task, which is configure group policy, uh, it a group policy is a Windows administration tool that allows system administrators and security engineers to configure various settings across an organization's infrastructure. So we will be exploring some of the features of this administrative tool. It should be noted how extensive and thorough some of the policies can extend to. Any changes to group policy should be first tested in a controlled environment before pushing updates to production. Now, given the extensive nature of this administrative tool, this task will cover some more commonly used group policies. Now, we will configure group policies using Windows Administrative Tool. So, from the Server Manager, click Tools and select Group Policy Management. Okay, let's wait for this to load. Okay, medyo mabagal. tools, and then group policy management. From the group policy management, expand the console object paths forest. And domains, and then practice labs. So under practice lab, right click group policy objects and select new. From the new GPO dialog box, name the text box. So new TLab policy. Click OK. Once back to the group policy management window, expand console object path group objects. Let's wait for it to load. Okay, notice that the newly created group policy object new plab group appears in the list. Now right click new plab group policy and select edit. From the group policy management editor window, expand computer configuration and then policies. Computer configuration and policies, and then from policies expand the Windows settings, and then security settings, and then account policies. Now right click password policy, click the password policy. Now right click password must meet complexity requirements and select properties. From password must meet complexity requirement properties dialog box, tick the define this policy setting checkbox, select enabled, and then click apply, then OK. Now from the left hand pane of the account lockout policy, notice that in the right hand pane in the policy settings for the account lockout policy are currently showing as not defined. So account lockout lockout threshold, select properties. Now in this dialog box, tick the define policy setting checkbox. Then under account will lock out, type in 3. Notice that the wording has now changed. Account will lock out after 3 invalid logon attempts. Click apply. Suggested value changes window will pop up. For this policy change, just click OK to the suggested value changes. So adjusting some policies will prompt the Group Policy Management Editor to give suggested value changes to additional policies that have direct dependencies or relations to the policy being changed. Now just click OK to finalize the changes. Notice that after completing the policy change and accepting the suggested value changes, the policy setting for the account lockout policy have changed from not defined to the recommended values. Now this time, expand the security settings policies. Security settings policies. And then select software restriction policies. Right-click software restriction policies and select new restriction policies. So new software restriction policies. Right-click on designated file types, select properties. Under the designated file types properties list, scroll down and select LNK extension. Click remove. So it is important to remove the LNK files as the start menu, and pin items use these designated file types by default. Not removing it could cause links to break. So a warning window will pop up notifying you that this file type will run with unrestricted privileges. Just click yes. Click OK in the designated file type properties to finalize the changes. Now right-click additional rules and select new path rule. So in the path, type in the following. Okay. So by default, the C Windows and C program files are permitted, but on 64-bit Windows program files, 86 is not automatically whitelist and thus needs to be added manually. Now expand the application control policies and select App Locker. So application control policies, select App Locker. So from the configure rule enforcement pane, click the configure rule enforcement web link. So the 4 rules set sets are used to differentiate between the different types of apps they correspond with. Now, from the App Locker Properties dialog box under Executable Rules, tick Configured and click OK. Now expand the App Locker and select Executable Rules. Now right click on Executable Rules and create New Rule. This will display a Create Executable Rules wizard. Click Next. So from permissions, set action to deny and then click Next. And under conditions, select file hash button and then Next. So there are three types of primary conditions that you can create. Publisher identifies an app based on its digital signature. Path identifies an app by its location in the file system of the computer or on a network. And lastly, file hash, which we selected, represents the system computed cryptographic hash of the identified file. Now from file hash, to set the reference file, click Browse Files. For this example, we will be locking down the native calculator application on Windows. So from the open window, navigate to this PC and then local C. Windows and then System 32. System 32. Okay, so select the Calc app and click Open. Now once we're back on file hash, just click on Next. Under the name, click Create. As this is the first time that executive rules are being generated, AppLocker will populate an notification to create the default rules. Just click Yes. And once completed, notice that Execute Rules has populated 3 default rules, all set to allow and also showing the deny rule that was just created. Now the next one would be, let me check. Next one, step 37, expand administrative templates, policy definition, retrieve from local computer, and then Windows components. So expand the Windows Defender antivirus. select scan. Then click on check for latest virus and spyware. So right click and then select edit. So from this window, select enable, then select next setting. Clicking the next setting button will progress the configuration to the next policy list. Now from the allow users to pause scan window, select disabled and click next setting. Next one would be specify the maximum depth to scan archive files. Click X. Now select Start, Menu, and Taskbar. Okay, so from Start Menu and Taskbar, right click, remove and prevent access to the shutdown. Right click and click Edit. Now remove and prevent access to the shutdown, restart, sleep, and hibernate commands. Select Enable and click OK. So enabling this policy prevents users without administrative permissions from shutting down the computers associated with this group policy. Now this policy is often used for virtual machine instances that users will RDP into. Now let's close the group policy management editor. And then expand the group policy objects and select new PLAB group. And under security filtering, click add. Security filtering, click add. So in the dialog box, click on the object type and ensure that the computers is ticked. Click OK. In the enter a name, enter the object name to select. Let's type plab win 10. Now click check names and to verify that the name was entered is correctly, and click OK. So notice that the security filtering pane, the PLAB practice labs, has now been populated. So leveraging group policy management You can apply created policies across organizational units. As demonstrated in this task, it could also be applied to individual instances, but in this case, the virtual machine PLAB Win10. Okay, so our second task would be to explore Event Viewer. So Event Viewer is a native tool to Windows used to log application and system operational data from errors to informational messages. Now this tool is used for various forms of troubleshooting Windows system and applications that run on them. So in this task, we'll get a quick overview of where this tool is located and the kind of information it displays. Right, so let me check. Okay, so let's go back to the Server Manager dashboard. Click on Tools and then Event Viewer. So from the Event Viewer, let's expand the Windows log and select System. Right-click System and select Filter Current Log. Under the event level, tick the checkboxes for critical, warning, and error, and then click OK. Notice that the log entries will now filter to display error, warning, and critical entry level type messages. So click any error messages under event 144 time service. Notice in general tab it gives you a brief description of the error being examined as well as the time it was generated. So the level column indicates what type of log it is. The most common type is information. Now the information log will notify you when something has been changed, and an app or service is logging an event. Now a warning notifies you that something might not be quite right, and then an error log is notifying you that something unexpected happened, whereas a critical log will notify you when something is down, broken, crashed, and needs urgent attention. Now from the expanded Windows logs, click Security. Now right-click Security and select Filter Current Level. Filter Current Log. Let's select Audit Failure in the Keywords drop-down. Then click OK. So the log will generate any failed instances of login attempts. So there's a possibility that no logs have been generated for this section yet, but it's important to take note that these security logs are useful in determining login attempts by malactors or even users who have forgotten their passwords or attempting to access resources they do not have permissions for. Right, and lastly, from the Group Policy Management window, just hit close. Right, so for exercise number 2, it will be on applying encryption to resources. Now, applying encryption to resources isn't something new. It's been used for years to add security to physical devices, making it harder for attackers to gain access to sensitive data. Now, in this exercise, we will encrypt a virtual machine's OS and data disk in the Microsoft Azure platform. So for our first task, it's to encrypt an Azure VM OS and data disk. As more organizations move to the cloud, it's easy to forget resources in Azure still have a physical form. Housed in Microsoft data centers, the newly spun VM is created on a physical device. Encrypting resources adds additional layers of security to these devices. Now, in this task, we will learn to encrypt an Azure VM's OS and data disk. And from this taskbar, let's open Microsoft Edge. And when opening the Microsoft Edge browser, it will automatically redirect you to the Azure portal and sign in automatically. An Azure subscription will be provided for all lab activities that utilize the Azure platform. Note that in real-world scenario, either a subscription will need to be purchased or will already exist as part of an existing company infrastructure. Now let's click Create Resource, and under Virtual Machine, click the Create Web Link. And on the Create Virtual Machine page, from the Resource Group drop-down, select the pre-populated resource group. Under the Instance Details, let's rename the virtual machine Key Lab Stab M. Under Region, make sure it's under UK South. Also under Instant Details, ensure the security type dropdown is set to standard. Then from the image dropdown, it should be Windows Server 2019 Data Center Gen 1. Now for the administrator account, click on the username and enter the password. After the confirm password, click Review and Create. Now, if the save password notification appears, just click Never. So the overview page will load and the deployment is in progress information will be displayed. Now once the deployment is completed, let's just click on Go to Resource. Okay, let's click go to resources. Now we'll be taken to the newly created PLab Stab VM virtual machine page. From the left hand menu pane, under settings, select disk. From disk, under data disk, select create, add, attach a new disk. So this one, create and attach a new disk. Under LUN, leave it as 0, and the disk name, let's rename this PLab Stab M-0. Ensure the storage type is the standard SSD, and in the size, let's click 32. Now in the toolbar, let's click save. Once the disk has been successfully created from the toolbar, Let's click on additional settings. Okay, so additional settings. Now from the disk settings page, expand the disk to encrypt. So disk to encrypt, drop down and select OS and data disks. Scroll down to Key Vault and create new. Click the create new web link. Now from the create Key Vault, under the instant details, select the pre-populated. So Key Vault name would be PLAB. So the reason we are including 2 random characters is that the Key Vault name must be unique in the subscription. Next, ensure the pricing tier is standard. And in the days to retain deleted vaults text box, type over the existing value, replace it with 7, and then click review plus create. Check PLAB. Okay. Okay. Okay, after that, let's create. Now the running validation message will appear, and after creating the new vault key, it should return you to the disk settings page. Now after creating, the new vault key should return us to the disk settings page. Now from key, click the create new web link. Let's type in the name PLAB key 1. Ensure that the key type is the key RSA key size is 2048, and ensure that enable checkbox is ticked, and then click create. Now once we're back on the disk settings page, ensure that the newly created PLAB key 1 is shown on the key drop down. So there, PLAB key 1. From version, select the current version. So current version. Now, if you see the version drop-down link is grayed out, it means that the enabled checkbox was not ticked when creating plab key. Lastly, click Save. Let's just wait for a few minutes while the validation is being processed. Okay, so after a few minutes, successfully updated disk encryption setting notification will pop up at the right corner, top right corner, which means it will be finished.